Hello and welcome to episode 5 of this Let's Play Space Age series. It's entirely possible this might be the last episode. Possible. So it's also entirely possible there's 3 or 4 episodes left and I just don't know any better. Anyway, in the last episode we got to Fulgara and we built a little base there. A really little base. It wasn't anything significant. We just needed to get the job done. We got the science. And then kind of from there, we just kind of had to deal with a whole lot of little things, you know. Where things go. Increasing production of certain other things. Getting some spaceships sorted so we can have some semi-autonomousness in space. Of delivery of these space stuff. These the science. We got it kind of sorted. And you know, the ultimate goal was Aquilo. That's what we're getting to. That's what we're driving towards. I want to get there. I want to see it. I want to understand the issues that we're dealing with. So, this episode, it's really just a case of getting there and then seeing what happens. Because, obviously, still all new. So yeah, let's just finish the science and let's get there. And welcome to Aquilo, the final planet on our trip, as far as I understand it anyway. It took a lot of attempts to get here, a lot of attempts. Man, everything is a tough learning curve in this new day, of this new space age game. What eventually happened was, so I had a ship, it wasn't really designed to get here. It was only really designed to get to Fulgara, but you know, I figured they'd be similar. Turns out not similar at all. We need rockets to be able to attack the larger meteors that we get around this planet, and we need a good system to be able to make those rockets. And that ship that I had made, it was only using the advanced recipes for these meteorites. So what I was finding was that I was chucking a whole load of meteor stuff at this, and then I was having to recycle a lot of it in order to keep some kind of a balance, so that I still had the things. So I still had access to the things that this factory is making. So I used this ship. I eventually got it to a point where it could just about get there, based solely on the rockets that I could get delivered from Novice, mostly. You know, it does make its own rockets, but not really enough. But then I got to Aquilo, and it didn't feel like I had enough rockets in the ship to get back again. Like, I felt like I was stranded. I could have easily just dropped down on the planet and started building, but that ship, you know, if the thing is about Aquilo is if you've got a ship and it can just about get there but it can't get back, then it's kind of stranded there, and it will eventually run out of ammunition. A big meteorite will eventually hit it, and it will eventually take out something important, and you know, it's essentially dead. If you've got a ship that can't get back again from Aquilo, it's dead. It's going to just die eventually. So I kind of had this moment where I was like, do I just drop down onto Aquilo and make do with some ways or another? I'll make do. Or do I go back to an earlier save and try and build a new kind of dedicated spaceship? I mean, this one is more or less dedicated for the Fulgara trip. I mean, it's not great. Looking at it now, it needs some updates. But that's what it was designed to do. It wasn't really designed to get me to Aquilo. So, of those two decisions, what I decided to do was to make the new ship. And what we've come up with is this kind of monstrosity. I mean, it's very, very, very effective. Very, very, very good at what it does. You know, these kind of channels, what essentially happens if a big asteroid kind of comes this way, first the meteor, the rocket turrets take it out, they crumble it down into a smaller shape, it goes a little bit further, then the gun turrets obliterate it into really smaller shapes, and then it gets picked up by all the asteroid collectors. I've got no problems with the amount of stuff I'm collecting. That is also a consequence of this kind of new setup that I've got here, because now I'm using both recipes to process asteroids instead of just one of them. So in the other ship, what would happen is it would clog up on one of the ingredients, and generally it was, well, if it clogs up on the carbon or the iron or the ice, that's actually a good thing. Those are things, the primary ingredients that we want. What I found was that it was clogging up on the sulfur, the calcite, and the copper. And what that meant was that we weren't getting any rocket fuel. So I was scrapping all of that stuff in recyclers. But in this kind of redesign, what I'm doing is I'm sending the asteroids to these advanced processes first, so we get those calcite if we need it. If we don't need calcite and it starts to back up, then it sends the asteroids to the original ice crushing process, and that just gives us ice. So essentially, if we're full up on the calcite, then we'll just produce ice instead, and that's the perfect scenario. So these two combination of things, these two kind of funnels I've built on the side of the ship, plus this kind of better asteroid processing method, because I'm not scrapping anything up here, it's all just recyclers. We're not using any recyclers, is what I meant to say. We're not scrapping anything up here. No recyclers at all. We're just, every asteroid we collect, we're using 100% of whatever we get out of it. So those two things, the funnels and the better asteroid processing, has made this ship very, very effective. I could probably reduce the size of it and kind of scale of the thing, because I've got this, and this is working so well. But, you know, I've got the ship now. There's no real point knocking it down. That's more work, more effort. I've got it. It works fine. So, anyway, we are at Aquilo, and Aquilo is fun. Just fun. We've got these heat pipes. We need to heat them up, and that will defrost the whole base. I'm sure some of this is obvious, but I'm just going to go through it anyway. That defrosts the base, and that allows us to process materials. And part of those materials that we can process are the fuel that we need to heat the stuff in the first place. And well, there's been a bit of development on what my thought process was here, because I thought I couldn't see any ice. No, I was on a frozen planet. I couldn't see any ice in any of the ingredient trees and any of the kind of the chains of recipes that I was looking at. And so I was kind of thinking that from a balance perspective, even though we were on a frozen planet, we were going to be extracting ice from space. That was where I was. So I built this with that in mind, and it turns out to have been completely wrong, because there was a process I was missing that I didn't see that gives us too much ice, more ice than I can process, more ice than I need. So I need to bring recyclers down to here, and all of this needs a bit of an update as well, to be honest. I built this first thing. This is like a heating tower. This is the primary thing which is heating this whole thing now, and this is 40 megawatts. And I thought, hey, that'd be fine. That'd be plenty, surely. And so I've built 40 megawatts worth of power, and I've tried to heat up the pipes, and it's turned out not to be enough heat in the pipes. So I've built some more. But this has raised the question in my head, like, 40 megawatts of power, okay, so how much power are we spending heating the pipes? What is the differential? It's probably dropping like a stone at the moment. Heating up these pipes is a pain. So what is the heat deficit we need to overcome? What is the power we need to put into this base in order to keep it going? Because it seems very, very hungry. I appreciate we're on a frozen planet, and that keeping things warm in a frozen planet is difficult. I suppose that is where we are. Aquilo is going to be difficult. But this thing that I've built, it needs some redo. I need to do it again. I think I need more fuel. I think this was basically sized on feeding one of these heat reactors. So now that I've got several more, I think I need, I don't know, like a dozen of these things. That means I need more of these. The whole thing kind of expands exponentially the bigger. Anyway, that's what needs to happen. We need to get to a place where this is our starting place. We just need fuel to keep things warm, and then once we've got fuel to keep things warm, we can start considering processing some actual materials, maybe get into some science. But that feels like still some ways off. This needs some development. Maybe with some development we'll be closer than where we are right now. Let's do it. Alright, so I've put it in the thumbnail, and we've reached that point. I am officially at the end of my tether. Not necessarily. There's two main reasons for it. The first main reason is that I'm bored. And not because of the game, but because I don't have this base on Aquilo. It needs so many things. All of those things need to come from Novice. That trip is difficult and treacherous, and I can only deliver it in batches of what this platform can hold. So I'm constantly waiting for things to come in, and it's very, very annoying and frustrating. But really, that's only kind of half the story, because the second part of the story is that, to be honest, for a long, long time on this playthrough, I've been thinking about what I would do if I was to start again. You know, how I would approach things, the ideas that I have, you know, trying to put some of the lessons that I've learned along this journey into action. Because when I started this journey, I had no idea what I was approaching. And I've got a lot of ideas for how I want to do this better. And although I've had those ideas kind of rumbling around in the background for quite some time, it's only really one specific idea that's happened as I've been here on Aquilo, trying to understand what I would do differently. And I've had an idea, and it's such a good idea that I have to do it, and I'm almost, none of the parts of my factories on any of the planets are really in a place to be able to enact this plan. So this plan is that we don't have any iron, copper, plastic, or we don't have anything on Aquilo whatsoever. Everything needs to be imported. However, we do have those things in space. So what I need is a platform in space, a starter factory platform in space. Something that can maneuver around from planet to planet and make the stuff, because I mean all that stuff in space is free. It doesn't extract any ore from any particular planet. It doesn't reduce the resources on any particular planet. It will just run itself from the asteroids that it collects. So I can position that above any base that I'm working on. I mean, to be honest, this will probably be my well, maybe not my personal craft, because it's going to be big and heavy. But I'm going to move it around from planet to planet, depending on what planet I'm working on. It's going to make conveyor belts, inserters, assembly machines, furnaces, you name it. It's going to make it all in space. Just the basic stuff. Like if I need a specialist in green, then I can go to a planet and I can pick it up with another platform. But it's really all those basics. I mean, one of the things that's been brought to light on Aquilo, obviously, I need an absolute ton of heat pipes. Just so many of the damn things. And it would be just so easy if I had a platform in space that had all that stuff ready to go. Like really, I need all of that stuff before I come here. And you know, it might have been this idea might have been the thing that's pushed me over the edge in kind of wanting to restart. But there's so many ideas that I want and I have that I want to put into action along the way. Like Novice to me is just, I get so little satisfaction from coming here or looking at it. Anytime I think about the production that it can give me, I get anxious about it because it's not very good and I want more. And I think about all of the mistakes that I've made along the way. And there's been a few. Like, I don't know which episode you want, episode 2 or something. I sat down and I worked out what the maths were for using foundries with this iron and copper. And the maths suggested that it was no benefit to using a foundry on Novice. We would get the same amount of iron in as we would put, the same amount of iron out that we put in. But that's not the case. That's not the case at all. We get a 50% production efficiency, productivity bonus. Like it already comes preloaded with modules essentially. So we get like 50% extra iron and copper. That I did not know that, and it wasn't until someone replied in the comments and I was like, oh man, that is just a catastrophic error. But I'd almost kind of passed beyond the point of actually changing my mind. I'd already kind of stubbornly stuck to it. And that's just one thing. Like, we've also got these special mining drills that we get from Vulcanus, and I'm making them. Like, we've got a box of them over here, and this someone put this in the comments, I don't know, not that long ago, but these only have a 50% resource drain, so we get double the amount of resources out of a patch of ore than we would otherwise get from a normal electric mining drill. So we need to use these everywhere. It makes no sense to use any other drill. But I'm not. I'm using the standard electric drill, and that is a consequence of another mistake that I made, which was that I decided in the last episode to start extracting the green and red science from Vulcanus because it's technically infinite on this planet. But what isn't infinite on this planet is coal, and the coal I need the coal to make the plastic to make the low density structure, and by putting the red and the green science here, I needed that low density structure to blast rockets into space, and I've used it all. I've got a tiny patch left. These buttons. A tiny little patch left, but I've covered it with my shopping mall. I've got a tiny strip that I could probably use, but I'm kind of keeping that as an emergency, or at least I was anyway. I was keeping it as an emergency just in case I needed something that I couldn't do without. So this whole base has been dead for quite some time, and I've had to shift the red and green. It's coming from Novice again. I've had to go back to where it was before, and I can't get any more of the special science of Vulcanus, which is really the thing I should have been concentrating on. I've wasted it all on this red and green science. When really the only thing I really need was the special science that I can only craft on this planet. And to get more coal, I need to defeat a worm. Of course I do. And I'm still not 100% sure I don't know how to do that yet. So anyway, massive accumulated burdens of previous decisions, the debt, you know, plus this final realization that, you know, I didn't need to build. If I have a ship, a platform, which is a shopping mall, then I don't need any of this on any of the planets. That makes my life a whole lot easier. So I'm going to start again. I'm going to start again, and I'm going to put all of these ideas into action. I mean, I want to get this time lapse sorted as well. You know, that's another thing that's on my mind. The longer I wait to start it, the longer it's going to take to get it done. And I really want to get a time lapse of this done. And I've got some really cool ideas about how I'm going to go about that. So, yeah. I'm sorry. I apologise for not making it to the end. That was the ultimate ambition. But, you know, I'm bored and this is not fun no more. It's not fun at all. I've completely lost heart. That's the fact of the matter. So I'm going to call it a day. The next episode you'll get from me will be a brand new playthrough. Me starting from scratch on Novice. So, short episode today. I hope it's been good. Probably not all that satisfying, but we'll get to the satisfying part in the next playthrough. Till next time.